Mhm.
Good morning. This is the Child-Free Not By Choice panel. My name is Cassie Destino, and I am the founder of IVF Support UAE. A big part of my job is helping women navigate long and complex journeys with infertility, and sometimes that journey ends without a baby to bring home. In the UK and the USA, almost 1 in 5 women reach midlife without children. For women born in the 1970s, it is thought that 1 in 4 will turn 45 without giving birth. Many of these women are child-free by circumstance and not by choice. This experience can have a big impact on the way that a woman moves through the world. Our culture is very parent-focused. We are bombarded with images of children in Halloween costumes or going back to school. We get asked how many children we have at the nail salon. We get told Happy Mother's Day by strangers in cafes. It can also impact the relationships we have with our friends and our family and our coworkers. When a friend has a baby, it can be painful for you and awkward for them and put a strain on your relationship. My guest today is Tash Hatherall. She is a successful businesswoman. She is the founder and CEO of a very busy PR firm called Tish Tash. She is a writer and a publisher and a fierce advocate for women and a good friend of mine. She lives child-free, not by choice. Tash, welcome. And I really want to thank you for your willingness to speak with us today on such a searingly painful topic. It takes a great deal of courage, and I want to acknowledge that before we begin. So thank you. And I wonder if you'd start by sharing your story with us.
Yeah, and I definitely think it is, it's, when we started working on Love Through Loss, 4 years ago, sort of together as a collective, I wouldn't have been sitting here today. As you know, I think over the years, each year it's like, are you ready to do a panel this year? And generally, I've never felt so, but I think finally, which in a way, it's kind of, we're all moving through sort of progress and milestones and things. And even for me coming on here today, I think that's part of that journey. For me, I've had an amazing career. I've done, I always say that everything generally in life, career-wise, work, came very easy to me, from, I did 3 degrees. I kind of had like, worked in the best companies, the best brands. I've like worked overseas. I've done amazing things and I love what I do in my career. And, and yeah, being honest, I kind of, for me, I was still, it was probably, even early sort of 32, 34, people, were asking, what was I going to have a family? And I was not sure. And then, yeah, kind of my mid-30s, I met my husband, and all of a sudden, all those kind of, things people say, you meet the right one and then all you want to have is a family. And we're both really family orientated. We've got amazing families we're really close to. We've got, lots of nieces and nephews, and so that's really important to us. So we really wanted a family. And so yeah, as soon as we got married, we started trying for a family. You kind of always say, you spend half your life either trying not to get pregnant or, but then actually when you really want to get pregnant, actually it's really hard.
Mm.
And then over kind of the course of the last sort of 10 years or so, it's, we found ourselves in a situation of reoccurring miscarriages. And, then, some of them, they were sort of varying at that kind of stage from between, sort of very early to sort of 16 weeks, 18 weeks, I think 22. So a lot of it actually we were getting quite far along. And then obviously we got pregnant again. And, we actually, even all those things we've gone through, all of the, all the tests, the screening, and finally, it was the things, we even had a nursery and all of it, we were so kind of close to all of, our dreams of having a family. And then our daughter Aya, she was born still, well, she was stillborn. And it was one of those things that they had. So one of the things that I learned as well, you always learn everything the hard way in this journey, is that she had a rare genetic disorder that was so rare that it wouldn't come up in any of the general screening. I kind of thought that, all the typical, even because of my age, I'd done all of the in-depth kind of screening, and I thought that would mean, okay, you tick the box, you get through that, you're going to have a healthy baby. And then there's a lot of things that you can never account for. It's kind of awful when you're like, okay, the chance of this happening again would be, I don't know, like kind of like literally impossible. But it's when you're in those kind of numbers, it's like, why did this happen to me? So that was 5 years ago now. And scattered in between this, we had various, rounds of kind of IVF and different, and then afterwards, it took a while, obviously, I mean, the whole, sort of, there's lots, like I said, about the whole kind of losing a child. But I think that it very much, sort of, it took me a while to get back on my feet. And then we obviously decided to give a few more rounds of IVF a try. And then I felt it's very true in terms of, I knew I was done. And I think, I think both of us, I think we went to go and have one more round of IVF it's funny. It's like we actually ended up having a year where we did nothing. And we actually had like the nicest year. I think, after like 10 years of trying, and every bit of money we had, every round of IVF was costing us probably, about even 100,000 dirhams. A lot of the time they don't tell you the reality of when you need particularly a lot of hormones as well. Particularly, I think in my case, the older I was and everything, and all the different screening and everything, it was costing us about 100,000 every round. And so yeah, it was like over the course, we spent over 1 million on kind of, fertility treatment. And so we sat there with our IVF doctor, and committed. We thought we were committed to doing one more round. This is the final one. And then he looked at us and he said, you look actually like neither of you want to be here, or you just look really. And I think it was that moment of actually, you know what, I actually don't want to be here. And even though you desperately want a child, the realization that for the past year, we'd been on holidays, we'd had conversations at dinner that didn't involve, can we afford another round of IVF, and that weren't all focused on, or, okay, it's time for another injection. And I think we really, after nearly 10 years of being completely obsessed and focused on this, we'd had a really, really lovely year with us. And I think, I can realize I'm actually so lucky that I'm married to an amazing man. He is my best friend. And, we've been through the worst things together, but, we actually, both of us have so much to be grateful and happy for. And I think it was that realization that, of course, all things equal, we'd have loved a family, but there was a lot to life, and to kind of drawing a line under this journey. So that was, so we never actually, that was it. We went for our consult to start IVF again. We never went back. And that was really kind of like, the drawing of the line and moving on to kind of the next phase. And so, so now I'm in this childless not by choice bracket.
I mean, it sounds like you guys were always on the same page with things as you were going through all of this. Then that must have made this a little bit easier on you, if because you are navigating this with a partner. You're not, you've not defined yourself this way on your own for the rest of your life. Which brings me to, I'm curious about the choices that you and your partner have made about your life that are different from what you thought it would be like when you thought you would have a child. Tell me about what your life is, what it looks like now, that it wouldn't be that way if you had had a child.
I mean, I think when you end up in this situation, you have to kind of find like the positive things, So, for example, this year, all of our friends were like busy with back to school and getting their children, all of their, well, it's obviously an expensive time. And, so we watched everyone go on, do all of their summer holidays. And then obviously all of the back to school but it was the week everyone went back to school, and we literally it was in the morning, and then I booked a flight and we flew out that night to the Maldives. And it's not lost to me that, if at the end of the day, if we had children, you wouldn't be doing an impromptu trip to the Maldives that night. So I think travel has definitely been something, we've done a lot of spontaneous and impromptu travel. Like last Christmas we went to New York for Christmas and New Year. So definitely that's one of the things. We love traveling, we love seeing the world. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of it's cheaper when there's two of you, and it's cheaper when you don't have to go in school holidays. So we've definitely made the most of that. I think, I mean, obviously, you can't put a price on children and family and everything, but you kind of, when you kind of sometimes you have to, with my friends, I've kind of adopted a thing about almost like joking about, the benefits of being, childless and everything. And it's like, so when they are spending all their money on things like, I don't know, school stuff, or even just obviously like having, end of the day, it's extra healthcare, right? It's extra, all of the extra things, so yeah, then I'll go and buy myself a handbag or some shoes, or and yeah, property is big, I mean, we obviously, we've been putting our money into kind of like different things. We've opened different businesses. I think, we have been left with more disposable income than we would have had if we've had children. So we have been, but we also, both of us really, we like to gift, and I think we're quite generous. Like my niece and nephews, my husband's, we've like bought them lots of flights to come over and stay with us. And so I think for us, it's like, yeah, we've kind of, I overcompensate personally with my niece and nephews. I kind of am that aunt that really spoils them and everything because I can.
Well, there is definitely something to that. And yeah, people have, I hear what you say. You can't put a price on your children, but you still have you have a family, and you are finding ways to spend your money where your heart is. And that is definitely an upside. You do have the ability to choose how you spend your money in a way that not everybody can, where you don't have choices. Your money comes in, it has to go here and it has to go there, and then that's it, and then that's all your money. So that is definitely a positive thing. Can you remember ever seeing any child-free models in the media when you were growing up? Do you remember ever seeing, oh, is what life could be like without children? In any TV shows, or were there any celebrities that you remember seeing?
It's funny. I don't think I ever really tuned into that. Maybe because it wasn't really something that I ever thought was my path or something. So I kind of like, I never ever thought that was something that was going to be. I don't know. It's funny when I've been sort of thinking about this. It wasn't like. I mean, you can look at like kind of like Samantha from Sex and the City, or kind of like people like that, and obviously, but honestly, no, I don't think. I think I always thought my path was going to be having a family, so I didn't tune into that. And it's
Yeah.
probably only sort of since I've ended up that I've kind of looked at kind of things for more. And for me, actually, my aunt and uncle, who I was very, very close to, they actually were childless. They actually chose to be childless. They didn't want, and they were expats, they lived abroad, and they had this most amazing glamorous life. And I used to, from when I was 16, I used to go, my mum used to send me over there to go and spend the summer with them, and I'd work for my uncle's business, and I would like have summers abroad, and I've got the best memories and the best experiences from my aunt and uncle. So actually, it's not a celebrity, but even I've like found myself like drawn to actually my aunt and uncle, who were, I'm actually like, they were definitely the cool aunt and uncle. So now like we're like, me and Raf are like very much like, okay, we're going to be the cool aunt and uncle or whatever, and we're going to have our nieces and nephews. I mean, already this year, my husband's, we had 3 of them come and stay with us, and we took them here, on like boats in Dubai, and kind of gave them the Dubai lifestyle. So, and likewise, my niece and nephew are a bit younger, but I definitely think, I mean, already my niece is like 10 and often threatens that she's going to come and like, live with us. So, I think, not celebrity, but definitely I have got role models in my family actually that showed, and I think about how I feel inside about my aunt and uncle so I think that I've chosen to kind of like, sort of, step into that really.
Yeah. Do you think that that is something that is important, that there are these models? Like, I know, for example, like Jennifer Aniston recently talked about how she is child-free, not by choice. She tried very hard to have a child, and she is obviously very prominent in the media. She is like the definition of a celebrity. Do you think that that is something that you wish people talked more about, and that was sort of more normalized in our conversation?
But I think it is only now that we're actually, obviously, as everything, right, we're talking about everything more, we're starting to, which is great. But I don't think 20 years ago we probably would have, I mean, I'm sure there are actually a lot of celebrities, you know, that are in that same situation. But I
Yeah.
think the fact that now we actually are in a situation where people like Jennifer can stand up and talk about it, hopefully it means more will too. And it's just, you know, it is like you say, that thing where everyone just, you know, everyone, people are just having children. That's just the normal, it's been the traditional normal cycle of life, that people, you know, expect you to, you know, get married, have a family. And I think normalizing, or the fact that family and life comes in different ways, is really important.
And also that a life of a woman without a child is an important and valuable life. I mean, I don't know if you're following this, but there's a real big conversation in America right now about women who don't have children, and it's part of the our upcoming election, and the way that women are being spoken about is this really shocking and backwards way. And there's a huge pushback, and people are saying that's absolutely ridiculous, that if you don't have children, you're not contributing to
Yep.
society. And I don't think that in their heart of hearts, most people believe that. But I do think it's important that we do normalize that this is also a way to live your life, and your life is just as important and just as valuable. So kind of shifting gears a little bit, I wonder, do you have prepared answers for when, you know, if you go get your nails done and they go, how many children do you have, madam? You know, just off the cuff, people ask you about your children. What do you say? Are you ready for those questions?
I am now, and once again, I find, you know, you find it all out the hard way, and it is true. Everyone's obsessed with asking you, like, you know, about this. I find taxi drivers are the worst. Obviously, I don't drive. Well, I do drive, but I don't drive, and I get a lot of Uber, and every single Uber person wants to know, like, you know, if I have children. So it is something I deal with on a daily basis. I found that the key to this is keeping it simple, and generally, I just say no, which, you know, obviously it's very much situation to situation, but generally if I was asked by somebody, I would say no, and I don't go into any more detail. It's generally though when you've got, you know, when people like to push, and sometimes it's taxi drivers that are like, you know, kind of like, oh, you should have children, they're the greatest gift and everything. And then depending on, to be honest, what kind of day I'm having or how much they push, you know, there have been times, I mean, I trust me, the worst conversation killer to anything is telling someone you had a child that died. So as soon as you tell someone that, that literally like kills everything, and they don't want to talk to you again. So if someone's pushed it too much, I'm not proud of it, but I have been known to literally just kind of, you know, but generally keep it simple, I find. And, you know, and most people don't go into more detail, but when they do, obviously it depends kind of what frame of mind they find me in on that day. I find even recently I was doing some medical tests, and you know, even just doing all the medical questionnaires, you know, we have to fill in all your history, and then it's like, how many, you know, it's almost like, how many living children do you have? And I was just like, you know, that kind of like really made me kind of so yeah, it's things, certain things that do throw me. Yeah.
Do you find that, you know, I'm sure in the first few years there were emotional landmines that you were anticipating. Do you still come across emotional landmines that you aren't anticipating? And, you know, how does that affect your day and your mood?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think generally I would say, and this is like, you know, I feel like I'm in a really good place today, you know, 5 years on, or probably 3 years on from making that final decision. Um, but no, it's actually always unexpected things that really sometimes throw me off. Like I do find back to school really hard, and I try and probably stay off social media in those kind of days where everyone's posting their pictures. Christmas I find hard as well, you know, it is the same kind of thing. But yeah, sometimes it's kind of, I'm trying to think, like there's been recent kind of like things where it really has kind of set me off or kind of triggered me. And but I kind of like think that that's the journey now. And even if you are, you know, whatever stage you are of the journey, there's going to be times where, you know, just because you may, you know, I've done a lot of therapy, and I've done a lot of work on myself, there's going to be times where it is going to, like, you know, it is going to come back. I'm kind of okay with that being okay the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you searched out any kind of community, any kind of support community? Do you find that helpful? Do you recommend it?
It's funny, like I know you and I have talked about this before as well. Like when I obviously when we lost our daughter, I obviously, I was very, I felt that I didn't want to go and join, there's lots of communities, obviously a lot part of our community who support and help through loss and, things like that. And I actually made the decision at the time that I didn't want to be part of those because I felt, I don't know, this was me at the time, that I didn't want to just surround myself with people that had gone through loss. I kind of, and that to me was something that was a personal choice. Um, I have likewise, I have kind of given a lot of thought as to whether, the whole childless community is something that I either would want to join if I could find one. I haven't found one locally, or if it's something that even me being me, I'd want to set up. I have thought about it. The good thing is I'm finding now is that a lot of my friends have got their children are leaving home, if that's how old I am now. And so they're all becoming empty nesters. And so all of a sudden, all of like, obviously I've got friends that are just, I've got friends at both ends of the spectrum. I've got friends with kids at university and I've got friends that are, I've got small children or babies, they're still having babies. But a lot of my friends now, like particularly my sort of, school friends, they're all, going into this new phase of themselves. So they want to travel again. They want to do things. They want to kind of like, it's not all about like nappies and kids and things. So, sometimes it can feel quite lonely when you're the only one that's like not in that phase. And for me, even sometimes seeing like friends hanging out together outside, doing things that I'm not invited to, and I find that can be quite hard for me, or it has been, and feeling left out. But I think I know I've got a few really close friends that also haven't got children. And so I think, so we, me and my husband, we do socialize with them a lot. None of us have to worry about babysitters or ask questions about things like that. So we've kind of got that. But then also generally, yeah, friends that have got kids. I think most people, honestly, when they go out, they kind of look forward to a night, mostly not talking about their kids and everything and talking about other things. So I definitely, I think there is a place definitely for something for those that do want, I'm sure not everyone is in the same situation as us with a really good circle where, so, but yeah, I definitely think there's a gap, but I haven't found anything yet.
Okay. I know you're a bit short on time, but I just wonder if you have any thoughts or advice for someone who's just coming to this understanding that they will be child free. It feels so huge to them. It feels like their whole life. Do you have any thoughts of something you can say to someone in the first year or two of them kind of making peace with this?
Yeah. I mean, I found that I don't know, the whole term of like legacy became really important to me the first few years, and was something that I really wrestled with. I think generally, if people have got children, your children are your legacy, they go on, they carry on your name, or, they kind of, and obviously when you haven't got that, I think that sort of traditional sense of legacy is something that I wrestled with quite a lot. And I've spoken to others and say the same. And I think finding that sense of purpose and legacy and whatever that means to you, I mean, for me, I obviously, I've there's things that I'm really passionate about, and obviously even being able to give a voice to things such as this, and obviously other women's health topics such as menopause, and I've been working on a book and things, so I'm finding my legacy now through other ways as well. And I think that there is so much I mean, I don't even think people need a legacy. I think when I've thought about it long and hard, so even if you don't even know, just go and live the best life that you can live with the years you have. And I mean, the reality is, no one ever remembers people like even one generation or two generation really behind. So it's kind of like, I don't overthink the legacy part of things. I got very fixated. But yeah, finding your purpose, or just, finding things that bring you joy and make you happy. I think it is, and I know it's, it's a different path, whether you are, with you have a partner, or maybe you don't have a partner and haven't, that's, if you haven't I've got friends as well that haven't met somebody and would really have loved a family, and yet they're also single and, you know, living childless, and that I think is a different path as well. So I think, you know, I'm really grateful for the fact that, and you know, and I even like, you know, I had so many conversations even with my husband about like, you know, go find yourself a young wife, just, you know, you know, it's all the things you kind of like, you know, and you know, because men always obviously think they can have children forever. You know, and I was very much, you know, just to him, because he, you know, but he was very, you know, we had all those conversations. He was very reassuring that actually, whilst he would love children, obviously he'd rather have a life child free with me. But I think all those conversations are normal as well in the kind of thing. But yeah, I mean, there's so much I could sort of say here. But no, I'm really grateful that yeah, just find all the positives, cling on to all the kind of, you know, bits of joy and all the great things you have in your life, you know. And if you have an amazing career, you know, that's you know, a lot of people won't have that potentially. Or so yeah, there is, I don't know, life is I say it's, well, you know, it's not the path I ever thought I was going to have. You know, you just always think that, you know, you're going to have these things, but life can still be beautiful, and it can still, you know, be amazing, even if it wasn't how you planned.
Well, I want to acknowledge that you have a big life and you do a lot for a lot of people in our community. You know, we are all not home here in the UAE, and you've made an impact on many, many, many people's lives, mine included. And I do want to thank you for that, and for the energy that you bring to your work, and the focus that you bring to your work, and the way that you advocate for women is incredibly important to me. And I just think you are one of the most inspiring people I know, in spite of your hardship. And you carry yourself so beautifully, so powerfully. And I just thank you for everything that you do. I thank you for your time today. And I just thank you for being you. So thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Cassie. I'm grateful to be here.
Be well.